Hello everyone and welcome back in. Well, this is episode 2 of our Unimog project. In the first episode, and if you missed that, go back and check it out, but in that episode, episode number 1, we concentrated on the construction of the kit, a nice kit to put together, and then I decided let's place this vehicle in the Rhodesian Bush Wars from 1965 to 1979-1980. And that required a bit of research and, of course, a bit of camouflage painting, mixing our own colors to match the reference photographs. At the conclusion of episode 1, well, we had our Unimog painted in the appropriate Rhodesian military schemes, a very attractive camouflage pattern. Of course, laying down the base colors is just half the challenge here, so now we need to take this nice, clean, attractive camouflage and we need to dirty up. Yep, this is going to be all about weathering of our Unimog here in episode number 2. We're going to take a close look at working with the oil paints. We'll add some extra details here and there, add some stowage. As always, we've got quite a bit to do. Let's get moving. Well, when we get down to the weathering, my first choice go-to is oil paints, and this should come as no surprise for anybody who's followed any of my work for any period of time. I've explained and shown this process using oils on a number of different videos, and we're going to do it again here as well. In short, adding color with a clean brush, the paints are nearly dry, very little thinner, and then we come back in with a stippling brush and just diffuse and blend those colors in. And we can put layer upon layer, color upon layer, and actually we can work through this very, very quickly because once again, the oil paints go on relatively dry. The excess linseed oil has seeped off into little pieces of cardboard there, and we're adding fairly thin layers here, so it doesn't take long to dry, and we can really keep moving on with a fairly quick clip here. What I thought I might do on this video is just do one of these little bit longer formats, let the cameras roll, just basically watching some of the weathering at 1:1 scale time here. So this is how it happens, very few edits, very few cuts. I think that's important so you can see the process as it unfolds and see the techniques. One thing I want to kind of point out, and something that was brought up in talking to my Patreon site, is watch the brush. The brush is as much a part of this process as the paints themselves. And what I mean by that, watch the brush. Watch the strokes. Are they going upwards or downwards? Are they blending? Are they stippling? That type of thing. If you like those types of conversations, more in-depth conversations, deeper video dives, things like that, Patreon is a good place for those resources. If you'd like to check that out, the description is in the link below. Now for the time being, we're just going to let the video run. You can watch the weathering as it takes place. I'm going to concentrate basically on the lower part, these lockers and fuel tanks on this side of the vehicle. Just kind of let this roll. We'll go through this process. As it starts to work its way through here towards the end of this little section, we're going to get into weathering and fuel stains here on those fuel tanks. So that's going to be kind of fun to watch. And then we'll move ourselves around the vehicles. I'll jump back in and out as things I notice maybe need a little bit more explanation. But for now, just sit back and enjoy. Working our way, continuing with the weathering to the front part of the vehicle, but you can see here where I've added some vehicle markings. Of course, this kit does not come with any Rhodesian type markings with it, so I was looking at reference photographs such as this one right here and noticed those stencils, whether they be units markings, vehicle markings, wasn't quite sure, but I thought, something like that could look really nice on my vehicle as well. And so I found some markings, some decals in my spare parts box and added those to the model. And for the time being, they looked okay. So I'm feeling like I'm kind of going in the right direction here, but boy, for some reason, after a little while, I just didn't feel like they actually had the right look, the right touch for what I wanted to do. I even tried trying to fix them a little bit, trying to get them to blend in, not only with the weathering, with the oil paints, trying to get them to incorporate a little bit nicer, a little bit better. Even sanded them back with some 2000 grit sandpaper just to give them a little bit more of a worn look. Just kind of polish those out a bit just to add a bit of scuff and wear and maybe a little bit of a faded effect to these. However, even with all these little tricks and attempts at trying to rectify this, I just couldn't quite figure out how to make it. It just didn't sit right with me. So I began looking through the reference photographs again, and I noticed that a number of the vehicles had these little shields on them with the red and the yellow, diagonal mark on it. I thought, okay, we could do that. So what I decided to do was literally just mask over the top and paint those. So I didn't do this. I didn't show it on camera as I actually did the work. I was just too engrossed in trying to fix my things here. So this is a reenactment of the masking. So, but you get the idea. Just masked it off. I painted white first, the yellow background, and then the red diagonal over the top of that. And that looks pretty convincing. And I think this looks a lot better. A brief moment for me to say thank you very much to my Patreon. Those are the members that you see rolling across your screen at the moment, and they make this channel work. In appreciation of the support, I offer early viewing of these videos, work-in-progress photographs, special Patreon-only videos. We have a Discord server for chats and showing off our work. I do encourage you to support this channel through Patreon. Again, the link is in the description below. Thank you. Trying to be careful not to touch things too much. While those paints dry, I added some silver using those metallic markers as we did on the headlights, and just a little bit of clear red and orange to bring out the reflectors or tail lights on the rear of the vehicle. Super simple, very effective process. So let's return to the weathering side here. I wasn't getting through the stippling, the traditional oils method, the level of dustiness that I was looking for. So turning to the airbrush, which is a great tool for doing this, I just simply loaded the airbrush with some thinned down oil paints, the same colors I was using for the stippling, and airbrushed those on in a dusty, cloudy pattern, and that provided me with the dust effects that I was looking for. I'll be able to come back in over the top of those dust effects with the stippling again and continue to build up the effects. And by the time that I was finished up painting those reflectors, I added a little bit of weathering starting on some of the tires and wheels here. The oil paints that I'd airbrushed had dried sufficiently enough. We're only talking maybe a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And I'm able to come right back in over the top of that misted, the airbrushed oil colors and do some more traditional type oil work, oil weathering, and add some heavier, deeper stains, more defined stains and rain marks and things like that. And here's a good shot of the rear tailgate, and you can see here where the unit marking, the vehicle number, I guess it is, the green decal, the 62, I went ahead and left it. I thought it looked okay in the back here, and then same as the front, I went ahead and masked off and added that yellow and red chevron. And just when you didn't think you could teach an old dog new tricks, here I go. I break out some panel liner. Haven't done that before on one of my projects, but I thought this was going to be a nice, easy way just to bring out some of that definition between the slats on the rear cargo bed here, add a few stains, and certainly this really did the trick. And since I was having so much fun using the panel liner, I thought, well, where else can I bring this out? And so on the front of the vehicle, in the front grille there, added a little bit of extra definition, especially on that fine detailed mesh there. Just brushed it over the top, let it seep into the recesses, and it gave me just the perfect amount of shadowing that I was looking for. By this part of the process, basically all parts of the vehicle had been touched, and now I could start bringing everything into balance. I had already pre-weathered the wheels and tires, and then looking at it about this stage, they just seemed a little bit too heavily weathered, too dirty. So I just brought out the dry brusher. Yep, the dry brusher. And just, this is AK Rubber Black. And just a light dry brush on the sidewalls just returned some of the black color over the top of the weathering. Another last minute sort of touch here is add a bit of graphite along some of the high traffic areas, especially like the rear cargo bed here where people will be coming in and out and sliding their equipment over the top. Just helps give that little metallic edge to the finish and helps define those edges. Well, this is one of those projects that even at this stage, I have no idea what the final composition is going to be. I do have some figures. We will make a base for it, but I don't know exactly what the scene's going to look like. Really, I don't have any idea what the scene's going to look like at all. But what I have decided is that the rear of the Unimog is going to have some stowage with it. And so for that, I'm turning to some value gear items here. These are resin products, all sorts of different styles and types and shapes of duffel bags and boxes and containers and such. This will add some, character and fill up that rear cargo bed a bit. And one of the great things about, the stowage and painting out the stowage is that it's one of those really relaxing type tasks or chores or whatever you want to call it that we get to do. If you come home and you're wanting to do some modeling, but you're not really sure what to do, or you're tired and don't feel like fiddling with something, just sitting down and painting stowage, I find it incredibly relaxing and even therapeutic. And it actually gives you time to kind of think about, in this case, composition and where I want this model to go. Not only am I going to use the resin stowage from Value Gear, but I have camouflage net here. I've never used these before, so we're going to pull up the package here, see what we have. Nice mesh. It actually has a nice camouflage pattern on it. So I'll cut some of this up. We'll paint that up and we'll add that to our cargo bed as well. Just another texture, another element to busy things up. And now finally it's time to start composing the scene, adding our cargo to the rear of the bed. And even though I've test fit these and have a fairly good idea where I want these pieces to go, the PVA glue does give me a little bit of working time here where I can move things around. And even if I do lock them down, I can always kind of pry them up if I decide to change the placement of some of these items. And before I get too far along adding a bunch of cargo in here, let's go ahead and add the machine gun mount, the stand here. And looking at references, these can be placed almost anywhere. There are multiple different locations shown in references, towards the front of the cargo bed, towards the rear, sometimes in the corner. Oftentimes there was more than one in the back, so it's pretty much dealer's choice on how and the look that you're trying to go for. And with all of that, it's been a weather-heavy episode here, but we are coming to the conclusion. This is where we meet up with as far as I've gotten along now. So we've got our spinning vehicle of weathered Unimog here, and in just a moment we'll start taking a look at some of these final photographs so you can get a better look at how this is starting to come together and turn out. It's a great project. I've really enjoyed weathering this one up. It's got a great camouflage scheme. It takes to the weathering colors very, very nicely, and of course the Value Gear implements in the back have started to add some real nice character to this as well. If you've liked this episode, please do those YouTube things and hit that like and subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel even further, remember I do have that Patreon page, and the link for that is in the description below. I'd love to see you over there. Coming up, well, like I mentioned, we do have some figures. I've got to start on those, and we're going to put together a scene. Again, I'm still not sure where that's going to go and how we're going to get down that path, but we'll get there together. So until the next time, folks, take care, everyone, and of course, happy modeling.